Wednesday, everybody, and welcome to State of the 76ers in January 2023 with Nicky Stees. So please do me a favor, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to both the Hardcore Sports Network and my channel, Nicky Stees, if you haven't done so already. So I will put the link to my channel in the description box so you guys can find, or put it in the chat, excuse me, so you guys can find it. Give me one moment. If the background noise is a little too loud, please let me know and I will relocate. The reason I'm outside right now is because it's a beautiful day out. So Chad, what is up? Thank you for coming through. That's right, I'm here to talk some 76ers basketball. Hope you're having a great afternoon. And so for anyone just coming in, there is the link right there to my YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed to it already, you haven't checked it out. So let's get into it. So today, we're going to talk a little bit about the 76ers and what they're up to. So we're currently fresh off a win last night over the Los Angeles Clippers, 120-110 last night on the West Coast. I streamed that game. And the Sixers, you know, they did their usual thing where they made it closer than it needs to be. And ultimately, yep, it ended up being a lot closer than it should have been. But hey, a win's a win. We got it. So I'll take that and run with it. So the Sixers, and I did this a month ago. About a month ago, they were kind of middle of the pack. And as of now, they've moved their way up to the number 3 seed. Actually, where they'd be the number 2 seed. No, they're the number 3 seed right now in the Eastern Conference. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the standings right there to show you guys where the Sixers stand as of the time I'm doing this. And then once I pull up the NBA standings, I'm going to share the screen with you guys. So here we go. Give me one moment. I'm going to share it with you guys. So here we go right here. So let's take a look. So Eastern Conference, you got the Milwaukee Bucks in second, 29-16. Celtics in first, 33-12. And you got the Sixers in third with 28-16 record. They passed the Nets officially last night with a win. And the Nets had a loss to the San Antonio Spurs. No Kevin Durant, no Kyrie Irving. And that's where it stands right there. So the Sixers have worked their way up a little bit through the East since we last talked, and they've been on a bit of a tear late. So we're going to take a look at the schedule right here, see where the Sixers have been doing in the past month. So go to right around Christmas time-ish, say. So we'll start around there with that 119-112 win over the Knicks. Look, since then, they've been, for the most part, they've been on a tear a little somewhat. I mean, you had the two back-to-back losses to the Wizards a few days later, and then the Hornets. But then they closed out the year with a win over the Thunder. Then they had a win over the Pelicans, win over the Pacers, lost to the Bulls, but bounced back with 2 wins over the Pistons. Lost to the Thunder, but rebound with win over the Jazz, win over the Lakers, and a win over the Clippers. So record-wise, this team has certainly been doing better recently than we're used to. So yeah, then they start off the season. But here's the thing, though. Here is the thing with that record. Let's take a look at some of the opposition they faced. So they beat the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are still, a team still trying to find their niche in their rebuild. And they beat the Pistons twice, who are still struggling. The Jazz, who are kind of stuck in the middle now. No Donovan Mitchell. So, and it's just, the Lakers we know are struggling, and the Clippers, they're kind of, so the Sixers, yes, they're winning games, but they're not really winning it against the most impressive opposition out there. So, even though they're winning these games, you look at it, it's not the most impressive wins in the world right there. I mean, so yes, they're winning, but there's still flaws on this team right there. And say, let's go back earlier in December. You got win against the Kings, and they're better, but they're still just getting back to it. And you got the Warriors, who they beat at home. The Warriors struggle on the road. Beat the struggling Raptors, beat the Pistons again. I mean, you look at most of these games we're winning, though. They're not beating top opposition, so it's not really that impressive. But they are still wins, and the Sixers are still finding a way to keep momentum going in the East. They're up to the number 3 seed, and at this rate, they'll be on their way to another playoff berth. They will. But I think we know where that's inevitably going to go, but it could very well happen. So let's talk a little bit about some of the good, the bad, and the ugly. Excuse me, I apologize for that. I had to sneeze right there. And the reason I'm wearing gloves outdoors is to protect my hands because I don't want them to get too frostbitten from all the... I mean, it's not freezing, but, cooler air. So that's why I got gloves on. But let's start with some of the good right now. The good is Joel Embiid's playing lights out like an MVP. I've been sharing some shorts on YouTube. Let it be known, like, hey, this guy's playing like an MVP right here. You see, been sharing some of Joel Embiid's numbers right there, showing like, hey, this guy is really on fire and he's really doing what he needs to do this year. Matter of fact, what I'm going to do is actually going to share one of those shorts with you right now, mainly from last night. So give me 1 second here. I'm going to share. So I'm going to share it with you guys. Yeah, so I've been keeping up because last night he was on fire. So here it goes right here. Joel Embiid once again shines as the hero in a 120-110 victory over the Clippers, this time with 41 points, 9 rebounds, and 2 blocks. Okay, so that was the short right there. And matter of fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to post it in the chat right there. That way, if you haven't checked it out, you can do so right there. So there's the link to that short right there. So you guys can check it out for yourself. And yeah, but so far, Joel Embiid, like I said, that 41 performance last night is just one example of, hey, this guy's really balling right now. He's doing what he needs to do this season. And hell, he's helping take care of business right now. So he's keeping the Sixers in the mix. But unfortunately, here's the problem, though. The problem is that he's, he's playing great. We know he's injury prone, so we know an injury could strike at any minute. The Sixers could be without him. Now, tyresemaxey, I'll get to that in a minute. But Embiid, we know injury could strike any minute. And what happens with the Sixers if Embiid gets injured? Then what are they going to do? Come on, we know how that plays out by now. And you know how that works, right? He's always, when he's injured, they struggle. The team usually loses games, right? That's always a common theme. It's been that way through the past couple years, and it's something that sadly will continue for this team. So, obviously, yeah, we know there's a problem there with Embiid's hurt. So we just got to hope that he stays healthy because for that reason, we go through this every year. So, but as of right now, though, he is playing lights out. He's been balling as of lately. He's been helping us win these games right here. Been sharing some of these point totals. He had a pretty good one against the Lakers, too. So I'm going to go through some of his totals right here. Let's go back to that ESPN Sixers schedule. We can take a look at this high scoring right here over this past month. So let's take a look. So we'll go back to like mid-December-ish. And I'll show you that right there. So let's see. You go back there to mid-December. You had 34 against the Warriors, 20 against the Raptors, 22 against the Pistons, 44 against the Clippers, 35 against the Knicks, 48 in that loss to the Wizards, 37 in that loss to the Pelicans. Then you had 42 on the second against the Pelicans. You had Harden at 26 here. Then recent games, the win against the Pistons last week, 36. The loss to the Thunder, 30. 35 against the Lakers and 41 against the Clippers last night. So Embiid, he's been putting up some numbers for this team, even in defeat. So we know offensively, he's carrying the load most of the time. Some nights you get Harden's out there too. They're balling out too, but he's not going to be your most consistent scorer on the team most of the time, unless you need him. Some nights you'll get that from Harden, but he's not always doing that. And last night, he wasn't the most productive scoring last night. He wasn't. You had Tobias had a pretty solid game, too. There's something else I want to talk about right now, too, about Tobias Harris. I'll get to that in a minute. But so far, the 76ers, it's just been, but Embiid's obviously the main guy on this team right there. But this team just isn't the same without him. They're just not the same. They don't play the same. They don't put up the same numbers. They don't win the games like they do with Embiid being there. So he's the heart and soul of this team. We've known that for years, and it's a continuing trend this year. Which makes me ask the question, what makes you think this year is going to end any different than the past couple seasons? It's been second round elimination. 2020 swept in the opening round, 2019 second round elimination, 2018 second round elimination. What makes you think this year is going to be any different based off what we're seeing? I don't see this being any different at all. It's going to be another second round playoff elimination for this team. I can just feel it brewing. And now Tyrese there's something else I want to talk about. Since he's come back from his injury, Doc Rivers has decided to bring him off the bench, which now, granted, on one hand, him coming off the bench, he has produced some numbers for us scoring. So that's helped us out right there. So scoring-wise, he's doing what he needs to do. He's helping us out. However, at the same time, you kind of wonder, why is he coming off the bench? Why isn't he getting starting minutes? Now, granted, I get that some people thinking, well, Maxey, hey, he helps out with points off the bench. We don't get much points off the bench, so it's good for him to come off, give us some points there. And in that regard, yes, he did. He helped us with points off the bench last night, so that's a good thing. But at the same time, I feel like that's just a lazy way for the Sixers to move around the fact that they don't have a good bench. Because let's face it, if we had a better bench, Tyrese would still be a starter. He would be. The only reason the Sixers are even experimenting with this right now is because the bench is... That's the only reason why they're doing that. So in that regard, Tyrese Maxey's good for getting points off the bench. However, at the same time, though, come on, we got to get some better bench pieces. I mean, so what are we getting off the bench? We got George Niang isn't really producing much. Got that right there. So that's not working out. You also got Korkmaz. He's just abysmal right there. And of course, you got Paul Reed. Why doesn't Paul Reed get playing time? That could be another thing too. You know what? If Paul Reed got playing time and he was helping out, or maybe if he actually, tried playing Jaden Springer maybe for a few minutes, just maybe see what he has. Not saying that he's going to be the answer to help us out on the bench, but if we haven't even really tried, so we don't know if he is or he's not because we haven't tried yet. I mean, Jesus, we should at least be trying with guys like Paul Reed and Jaden Springer to see if they can help off the bench. The Doc Rivers refuses to do that. And that's another reason why Maxey's the guy coming in off the bench. Because Doc Rivers has no confidence in these players like the Jaden Springers and Paul Reeds to help out. And yet Montrezl Harrell, sure, he gets you some decent numbers off the bench, sure, but outside of that, what else do you have going? Part of the reason why you don't have anything going is because you won't give some of these other players a chance to see what they can do off the bench. You have to at least try with Paul Reed, Jaden Springer. Maybe if those guys worked out, you wouldn't feel the need to pull Maxey off the bench. Maybe a guy like a Reed or a Springer would actually be coming into the lineup and actually helping out if the Sixers actually bothered to do that. But obviously, they're not bothering to do it. They're not going to either. And that's the frustrating part of this. That's just the most annoying and irritating part about this whole thing right here, is that the 76ers refuse to change up and refuse to give these guys some playing time off the bench. It's just absolutely absurd and ridiculous. Come on, you mean to tell me you're not going to bring in James Harden, you're not going to try bringing those guys off the bench, but that's why we're in the position we're in. So yeah, Maxey's good off the bench, but I just feel like if we maybe tried with Reed, Springer, we might not be in this position. Might not be. So yeah, obviously though, Tyresemaxey's still he's still an asset to this team, along with Embiid, whether he's starting or he's coming off the bench. He's helpful. He's a guy I want to keep around here. So Maxey's a good piece for this team. And Montrezl Harrell, okay, he's been a solid player off the bench, so that's a good piece right there thus far. You know who's been actually doing pretty good this year? Tobias Harris. Yes. Tobias Harris is actually having a pretty solid season coming off the bench. He is. He's been doing some decent scoring numbers right there. Sometimes he plays good, but Tobias Harris, though, he's kind of like the X factor this year. I remember like 2020, 2021, he was playing like an X factor off the bench. He was helping us out. No, not off the bench. He was an X factor in the lineup for us that season. And I think he should have made the All-Star game over Ben Simmons, but that's another story. But Tobias Harris had a pretty solid season. And last year, he was disappointing as all hell. He didn't do anything, really. It's just like... And now, this year, he's starting to play pretty solid. And Tobias Harris is a solid piece for this team when he's on his A game. But the thing is, he's not always on his A game. He sometimes just... I don't know what it is with him, but sometimes he'd be doing really well. Then other times he's just... I don't know, man. It's like he's just a hot and cold type of player. When he's hot, it works out well. But when he's cold, you're just like, what? It just can be a little frustrating to see sometimes. And hold up 1 second. I'll be back in a second. Okay, so now I'm back. I just needed to clean my nose. A little stuffy right there. But now I'm back. So, as I was saying, I was talking about Tobias Harris a minute, though. So, Tobias Harris. You know what? This year, he's more like the X Factor. But he's one of those hot and cold players. When he's on, he can be an asset and he can help the team. But when he's not on his A game, you feel like you're wasting your time with the guy. And that's, to me, Tobias Harris, he's always been a streaky player. Even going back to his year with the Pistons and Clippers. And this year, we've kind of gotten a little bit lucky that he's playing solid and he's at least doing something productive. So, thumbs up on that right there. So, Tobias Harris is helping us out in that regard there. this year round. So, but hey, as long as Tobias Harris is at least producing points, he can help us out. I'm on board with it, but I don't trust him to stay hot long. You know what I'm saying? Okay, and we got a like on the Facebook side of here. Alfredo, thank you for the like. And if you haven't gotten to my YouTube channel yet, you're still there. In one moment, I'm going to get to. One moment, I'm going to pull it up. I got it in the comments. I got to scroll up. So here it is right there. There's my YouTube channel right there. There's the link to it. But yeah, so Tobias Harris, that's the guy just like, he's a hot and cold player. I mean, I hope he stays hot and he helps us out, but so far this year, he's helping us out right there. And, so far things are looking up for the Sixers, but I can't help but to think back to last season. Remember we started off the regular season kind of, and then we kind of got hot in like the January, February, then like this, once we got closer to, once it got to like March, early April, when the regular season games mean more, remember, things started to take a turn a little bit down. And we were saying, yeah, it's inevitable playoff elimination again. I just kind of get feeling like it's going to be similar to last year. Let's wait to see what happens. Wait to see what happens come March, going into April, see how the Sixers team does before we start crowning them as a team that can do something. Just wait till then. Just wait till then and see what happens. So I think right now this team's just headed in a similar direction as to last year, where they're probably going to get into the playoffs. They're probably going to have some good moments in the regular season. Their star players will shine, but ultimately their lack of good scoring from the bench and Doc Rivers, the head coach, will ultimately catch up to us. I mean, you see Doc Rivers' rotations are terrible, and I really do think, again, like I said earlier, that if Doc Rivers would have just given guys like Paul Reed more playing time, we probably wouldn't feel the need to bring in Maxey off the bench. That's my opinion right there. But because he won't play Paul Reed, we won't know if he can be a valuable piece coming off the bench. And that's what it boils down to. I mean, but hey, you know what? So right now, as of January 2023, specifically January 18th, 2023, early afternoon, as of the time I'm recording this, 76ers, things are looking like they're going to go in a similar direction to last year. They're going to start off hot. They're going to be hot throughout January going to February, and then they will make the playoffs. They'll probably get past the first round. They'll have a favorable matchup there. But then, come second round, they're going to run into a better team, maybe the Celtics or the Bucks, and they're ultimately going to lose. That's what I feel like is about to happen with the 76ers team right there. So, yeah, so there's not much else to say right there except, hey, so far, Joel Embiid's playing like the MVP. He's playing lights out. Tobias Harris, he's actually doing pretty good right now. He's not all-star caliber, but he is helping us out right now. He's been an asset at certain points, and he's got to hope he can stay hot for as long as he can stay hot for. James Harden, he has he was looking like he could be an MVP candidate early on, but once he got that injury, that kind of slowed him down a bit. You still get some good from him, but you just, some games you rely more on guys like Embiid and Maxey and Tobias to do the work. But you can hope as long as James Harden can still shoot and can still produce, he can be an asset to this team. You got Tyresemaxey. Hey, he's still an asset. He's got a bright future ahead of him still. It's only year 3. He's still got plenty of mileage left in the tank. You got Doc Rivers. He just, he won't play some of these younger guys on the bench. Man, the bench needs improvement, man. They do. And, oh, yeah, one more thing. pjtucker, he's again proving why I wasn't high on him coming in the first place. But, hey, this just feels like the recipe for a playoff elimination. That's where we're at right now. We'll see if the Sixers do anything shocking between now and February. I'll be back to talk about the state of the Sixers in February. So I'll be back around this time next month. We'll talk about how the Sixers are doing in February. So to everyone that tuned in, thank you for tuning in, whether you tuned in live or you caught it afterward on the, we'll say, replay. And thank you for your view. Thank you for coming in. If you haven't done so, drop a like in the comments, or drop a like and then leave a comment. Excuse me. Let me try that again. So drop a like and leave a comment in the comment section or the chat. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, either the Hardcore Sports Network or Nikki Steve's channel, do so. If you haven't subscribed to either, subscribe to both. And until next time, is Nikki Steves signing off.